is a family anyway? I found some amazing quotes as I put together today's message. There are some very well-known quotes, such as Tolstoy's, "All happy families are alike, each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way," or the ever lovely, "Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind" from Lilo and Stitch, which is an underrated animated Disney classic if you haven't seen it. There's some that I hadn't heard, but really resonated with me, such as this one from Alex Haley, author of Roots. "In every conceivable manner, a family is a link to our past and a bridge to our future." There's this one from journalist Jane Howard. "Call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it a family. Whatever you call it, whoever you are, you need one." There are quotes that made me chuckle, such as this one from author Douglas Copeland. "People are pretty forgiving when it comes to other people's families. The only family that ever horrifies you is your own." Or this one from author Chuck Palahniuk. "Parents are like God because you want to know they're out there and you want them to think well of you, but you only really call when you need something." And I found some quotes that might resonate with you, but didn't really resonate with me, such as this one from Elizabeth Berg. "You are born into your family, and your family is born into you. No returns, no exchanges." And I also found plenty of quotes that made assumptions about who's in a family: a father, a mother, children, pets. But that is, they made assumptions about gendered family roles. But that isn't my family, and that might not be your family. The quote I liked the best came from C. Joy Bell. "There is no such thing as a broken family. Family is family and is not determined by marriage certificates, divorce papers, and adoption documents. Families are made in the heart."
The following reading is from Claire Hogg's "What's a Normal Family Anyway?" It's a typical Thursday night, and my family is gathered in the kitchen of my childhood home. There's me, freshly returned from college, helping my mom set the table, my half-brother, also home on break, debating our father about politics, and my half-sibling's mother chiding my half-sister for Snapchatting with her high school friends. If it took you a minute to process the relationships I just described, don't worry, you are far from the only one. I'll give my best simplified description of our family. My mother, my half-sibling's mother, and our father were friends living in the Bay Area in the 90s. At the time, both women were in their 30s and wanted to have children, but neither had a long-term partner. My father, a gay man and also partnerless, agreed to be their donor and, if things worked out, involved in their children's lives. My brother was born in March 1997, followed by me in October of the same year, and my half-sister came along 3 years later. As a child, I got strange looks when I told people that my brother was 7 months older than me, but I just thought of us as a family that happened to live in 3 separate households. Even growing up in Berkeley, California, which is generally known for being culturally diverse and politically progressive, my family structure has struck people as unconventional. I've had trouble explaining it to just about everyone, including friends I've known for years and financial aid administrators. It seems hard for people to get that you can have a family with parents who were never married, and that some women might choose to conceive and raise a child without a husband. But unconventional families like mine are becoming increasingly common. The number of 2-parent households has been in steady decline since the 1960s, dropping from 87% of households in 1960 to 69% of households in 2014, according to the Pew Research Center. The report notes that the declining share of children living in what is often deemed a traditional family has been largely supplanted by the rising shares of children living with single or cohabitating parents. I cannot count the number of times people have asked me if I want a normal life, said Maten Inbar Hansen, who was raised in 2 households by 3 moms. They think there is some objective normal that I am not a part of, or that because my family is unconventional, I have been raised incorrectly.
So we're going to do a little bit of a guided meditation, and at the end there will be a space for you to share anything you want to share that comes up for you. So just get in a position that feels comfortable. As with family, comfortable is up to your own interpretation, so find what that means for you. And once you're uncomfortable, woof, Andy. Once you're comfortable, I want you to close your eyes. You don't have to, but I'm just going to ask you to imagine a portrait of your family. This is a magical portrait. It is not contained by temporal realities. So whoever you want to see in this portrait, including those who are no longer with us, you can see them. As you look at this portrait, who's in it? Your spouse, your children, your grandchildren, your siblings, your parents, your grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, close friends, lovers perhaps. Anyone you have ever considered family is in this portrait. Is this portrait a crowded group of people, or is it a smaller group? As you look at this portrait, is there someone you wish were not in this portrait? They don't have to be there. Whoosh, they're gone. It's your family portrait. You get to decide. If there's someone you wish was there, but they haven't been there already, why not? Can you see them there now? I want you to take a good look at this magical family portrait and think about how it makes you feel. Do you feel loved? Do you feel frustrated? How does your family make you feel? And just let the feelings come over you as they come or they don't come. There's no right or wrong with this visualization. You're in this with your thoughts, and your thoughts are yours to have. Just take one last look at this portrait. Just one last look at it, and then let it go. Let go of all these thoughts, and just breathe in and breathe out. And come back to this space and this time and this reality. As with many services that I lead here at UU Miami, this one started with me wrestling with something internally. What does it mean to be a part of a family? I think about it a lot. I'm a 40-year-old queer woman with no siblings and no children. My parents are still around, but they're aging. My parents also had me in their late 30s, or later on, early 30s, so, that's a thing. And my mom's been living with chronic illness my entire adult life. When my parents are gone, does that mean I no longer have a family? Over a third of Americans now live in a single-person household. Are we all without families? That doesn't sound right. But what is? Some people grow up in big, extended families with tons of cousins and relatives. That was not my experience. I'm an only child. My mom's an only child. I am missing a page here. Oh, that is not excellent. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. All right. So there you go. Well, we're going to do that page off of memory, so this is going to be fun. I was going to say my dad does have a brother, but they are not close. Literally, My mom and I had to pressure my dad to call his brother before he had surgery 10 years ago to be like, you should let Uncle Bruce know. The last time I saw my Uncle Bruce or my cousins on that side of the family was in 2008. So like this is not a super close family, like traditional family situation. But I also had an example of a big traditionally close family. I was very good friends and did community theater with a group I did community theater with a friend, Shannon, and Shannon was part of a big, large Irish Catholic family. Every single person in this Irish Catholic family did theater with us. So it was her little brother, her little sister, and her littlest brother, and her mom. Her dad didn't do it, but he would show up to things. And I would spend time at their house, and they were into theater. They were weirdly libertarian, and at the time, I was 16, and I had just read Atlas Shrugged. And yes, we all make terrible mistakes at 16. There was a joke in there about that. Like, I was like, oh, I can flirt with libertarianism. Some people do underage drinking. I flirted with libertarianism. And so, like, we all make weird choices at 16. But I remember feeling loved and just a part of this Shannon's family. And I'm a year older than Shannon, so I went off to college first. And the summer after my freshman year, so the summer between my freshman and sophomore years of college, Shannon ran off with a Girl Scout counselor at the counselor camp that she was helping with. So she ran off with an older woman at the age of 18. And her family was not mad at her for running off with someone older in a position of power, which I admit is creepy. They were mad that she ran off with a gay woman. They didn't talk to her for a long time. And then I know, and then her eldest brother is now currently married to a man and not talking to their parents as well because of how his parents and his younger brother treated his husband. These were community theater loving people. Admittedly, libertarian community theater loving people, but community theater loving people. They were fine with other gay people in the community theater troupe that we were part of, but not their own children. That was just a line too far. And that's such a common story for people, even in this day and age. Just a few years ago, I had a student who was sleeping on a friend's couch after she came out to her dad for a few weeks. You know, I think a lot about that student, about Shannon, about Shannon's brother, and the family that they're estranged from. Are they still a family? Or are there two families now? The queer siblings family and those who left them behind. We don't often talk about the toxic side of family. There are folks that I know who will insist that Shannon and her brother just need to openly welcome their parents back into their lives after how their parents treated them. I could never imagine being in a place where I would cut my parents out of my life. But that's because they're my parents and it's how they act and we have a close relationship. I have other friends who have had to make the hard choice to cut parents or siblings out of their lives because the situation became too toxic for their own mental health. But there's this idea in our community that family solves all problems. That quote I said earlier from Elizabeth Berg. You are born into your family and your family is born into you. No returns, no exchanges. How can we reconcile that idea of family with abusive family members? Or the idea of family solves all wounds, all problems, and it's the pinnacle of life, is something that is used by toxic workplaces in an exploitative manner. I've been in many a theater company. I'm a theater person, I work in the theater. where like they're like, we're a family. All of our employees are a family. This is a family, and that is almost always code for asking employees to overcommit past their capacity. Because you would do anything for your family, right? But that's not the only thing I think about when I think about family. There's the beautiful things that we shared earlier. There's the genuine love and joy that I have for my parents. And there's also the fact that there are so many situations in life where family is just assumed to exist in a traditional way. One of the things I come up into a lot is the dreaded emergency contact situation. Right now, my emergency contact is my dad. He's in his early 70s, he's in good health, he lives about 2 hours away from here. He was with me when I had surgery 2 years ago. He drove down the time that I fainted in the doctor's office and had to be rushed to the hospital 1 block away in an ambulance, which cost me $2,500, which is a rant for another time, but oh boy, I want universal health care. But my dad can't be my emergency contact forever. We had an end-of-life preparation workshop in this congregation before the pandemic, and so much great information was shared. But I kept running into the assumption that there will obviously be one person that makes sense for you to have, as the one person who can have the power of attorney or be your emergency contact, who can have all of your directives on hand, who makes sense to be the person with you in the hospital. And outside of my parents, I don't know who that person is. I have people I consider to be my best friends, but most of them live out of state. And one of the ones that is in Florida is actively preparing to move because of fears around growing older as a queer person under Ron DeSantis' Florida. I have best friends from high school, I have best friends from college, I have best friends from other walks of my life, but they all have their own lives and jobs. If I'm gonna have surgery, can I ask them to come down to Florida and take care of me in my recovery period? Because that's asking them to take time off of work, to fly down and deal with me. That's not a vacation, that's a job. And they would be using vacation time to do that. And I'm sure some of them would, but does that put them in a financial position that they can't afford? And that's just one example of what happens when we assume everyone has a spouse or a child or a parent to take care of them. Are your families the ones who can take care of you, or the ones who you can take care of? It's been a long time since I've watched Grey's Anatomy, but I still remember the scene where Christina told Meredith that she was her person. For those of you who don't remember or have not watched this incredibly ridiculous soap opera that is amazingly still on the air, at the time, Christina and Meredith are surgeons in residency. They're best friends, and when Christina says that Meredith is her person, she's saying that Meredith is her emergency contact, but also her family. She's saying, this is the person I trust the most. And sometimes the person you trust the most, the person who is your person, is not going to be a spouse or a parent or a child. Sometimes your person is just your person. I'm an older millennial. I was part of the fight for marriage equality. I remember watching gay friends get married and saying vows that they had already lived for decades. So much of that fight was around who can be an emergency contact and who can have power of attorney. But even at the time, and this was actually before I was even out to myself, I felt like it wasn't enough. Not only do we need more basic civil rights protections for LGBTQ people outside of marriage equality, but for people like me, I need to be able to call anyone my person or someone my person. Some of us need the legal right to be able to call our friends our family, and that need is growing because the definition of family is changing. I can't tell you how many of my friends have asked me to join in on a Golden Girls retirement plan. Most of them don't even know each other. All of us are unmarried and childless. And, more and more women are making the decision not to have children as they face economic realities, climate change, and even just frustration with potential fathers not being willing to engage in emotional and household labor. And those who are having children aren't always doing it in a traditional manner. Many straight women are banding together to raise children together. And you know what? That's scaring a lot of people. Part of the massive backlash we have right now from the anti-abortion movement is because they are frightened of the changing nature of the American family. If women aren't choosing to have children, or people can have children, aren't choosing to have children, they will force them to. This congregation is actively involved with the push to put abortion on the ballot. Go sign your forms in the back there after service. And this is fantastic. Just as we were involved in the forefront of the marriage equality fight. Our beloved hymn, Answering the Call of Love, which we'll be singing later, is about being on the right side of that fight. Being able to define family for yourself is a social justice issue. But what does that mean for this congregation, for this community? If we're nurturing all families in a multi-faith world, as the sign to my left says, what does that look like? Well, it actually means supporting our children's programs in RE. And one of the things that society loves to do is to pit childless people against parents, and that's not okay. We are going to opt out of that. But it also, it also means making space for people who are without children or single to find where they fit, where their family is, where they fit into a community. We need to stop making assumptions that people are not complete without children or not complete without a partner. We need to continue to push for legal rights for a wider definition of family. I am one of the gays who's a little salty that we got complacent after marriage equality, because I think it directly led to the really dire situation we are in now. We definitely need to be fighting for reproductive rights. We need to continue dismantling white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism, because all of those forces are creating the very narrow definition of what a family is. And we all need to widen the circle. Yeah, ableism, sorry, you're correct, thank you. They don't, that's fair, CJ, ableism too, thank you. That's entirely true. We need to widen the circle, and we need to become comfortable with the idea of serving all families means all definitions of family, even if what looks like a family to me does not look like what looks like a family to you. Thank you.